I'm fine. 2 words, and behind them, something closes, quietly, like a heavy door pulled shut from the inside. Everyone in the room hears the sentence. No one hears the door. We call this coldness, a wall built to keep people out. But the person going quiet right now isn't building a wall. They are standing in a room only they have the key to, and they haven't decided if you're allowed in. This is the psychology of the ones who go quiet when they're hurt. If this sounds familiar, stay. By the end of this, you will understand that room. You may recognize it as your own. The anatomy of the freeze. Ask what happened, and watch. The mouth stays closed, but the body is not still. Something changes at a level beneath decision. This is the person who gets followed from room to room, hearing, "Why aren't you saying anything?" They have no answer, not because they are withholding one, but because the words literally haven't arrived. Under intense emotional flooding, the brain systems responsible for spoken language temporarily shut down, not by choice. So when you demand, "Just talk to me," you are asking a locked door to open faster than its mechanism allows. They aren't refusing you. They are waiting for their own hinges to move. The mind behind the stillness. There is a temptation to describe a quiet mind as a system overloaded. That description is not accurate. What's happening is closer to architecture than engineering. Behind the stillness, they are walking corridors, checking rooms, testing doors, asking 3 questions. What happened? What do I feel? And what do I risk by saying it out loud? Some minds process outward in real time. Others process inward, in private, at depth. Neither is more intelligent. They are simply built to different specifications. The mistake the world makes is assuming a quiet exterior means a quiet interior. Behind that stillness is one of the busiest buildings you will never be shown the blueprint for. The echoes of the fortress. No one is born behind a locked door. Every fortress is built, brick by brick, lesson by lesson, usually before the age of 10. Somewhere in her history, a smaller version of her said the true thing out loud, and the room did not hold it well. Perhaps it was mocked. Perhaps it was met with a bigger emotion than her own. Perhaps it was simply, quietly, ignored. The developmental researcher John Bowlby spent much of his career tracing exactly this, that the way we come to handle emotional pain is shaped early inside our first close relationships and carried forward largely unexamined. The lesson her younger self drew was not, "I am too much." It was, "This is not safe to say out loud." And so she built a fortress, not to keep love out, but to keep the untreated wound from being touched again. The fortress was built for a child, but children grow up and carry their walls into rooms that were never built to need them. When protection becomes armor, the fortress from childhood does not stay in childhood. It follows her into rooms where the danger has changed shape. A partner who twists her words back at her. A friend who calls her too sensitive. A version of love that makes her fear that anything she says will be used against her later. In those rooms, silence stopped being a wound and became a strategy, a way to survive an exchange where speaking the truth had before cost her more than staying quiet ever did. This is not weakness dressed as strength. It is intelligence, earned in an older danger, carried into rooms that may finally be safe. And she has no reliable way yet to tell the two apart from the inside. And yet, beneath the armor, something softer is happening. Something almost no one gives the quiet ones credit for. The mirror of intent. Here is what almost no one credits the quiet ones for. Some of this silence is not self-protection. It is protection of you. There is a concept in psychology called the window of tolerance, the narrow emotional range in which real conversation is actually possible. Outside that window, flooded and raw, nothing said, lands the way it's meant to. Some people just need 30 minutes behind the door before they can come back and mean what they say. They know what waits at the bottom of their own silence when the pain is still fresh. And they would rather hold it a little longer than hand you something they cannot take back. But not every silence is this one. Silence used to punish is different from silence used to regulate. One reaches for control, the other reaches for enough safety to return. The freeze we've been describing is the second kind, and mistaking one for the other cost both people something real. Still water is not empty water. It is water that has learned what it costs to move too soon, which raises the only question that matters now. Not how to break down someone's silence, but how to stand beside it. The 24-hour boundary. If you are the one who goes quiet, you do not owe an immediate answer, but you do owe a timeline. There is a difference between taking space and disappearing. Disappearing leaves the other person stranded outside a locked door with no clock on the wall. Taking space sounds like this: I am overwhelmed and I cannot talk right now. Give me until tomorrow morning. That single sentence transforms silence from an act of rejection into an act of agreement. It tells the other person that the room is closed, but the house is still safe. The art of the silent bridge. The instinct watching someone go quiet is to chase them into the silence, to follow them room to room, asking them to explain themselves faster than they are able to. That approach may produce words, but it rarely produces an honest conversation, because it treats their silence as a problem to solve rather than a boundary to read. What they are reaching for, long before they have language for it, is a bridge. Not a wall, not a door slammed shut. A structure they can cross back over in their own time without being made to explain the crossing. But a bridge holds from both sides. Space is valid. Disappearing indefinitely is not communication. And it is not fair to the person left standing outside a door with no signal at all. The door does not have to open immediately, but healing begins when the person behind it can say, even through the wood, I am still here. I need time. I will return. That single sentence changes everything for the person waiting, without forcing the person healing to open before they are ready. And that small signal changes something over time, not the need for space, the meaning of it, the grace of considered words. When her words finally come, notice something. They have been turned over, checked for fairness, tested against her own part in the story before they ever reached her mouth. That is not emotional distance. That is emotional integrity. A rarer thing in a world that rewards whoever speaks first and loudest. And here is the quiet ending to this. Healing was never going to look like becoming loud. It looks like a woman who no longer needs the door locked to feel safe behind it, who chooses stillness now out of peace, not out of fear. To love someone who goes quiet is to learn the art of waiting without demanding proof. It means understanding that their silence is not a punishment directed at you. It is the sound of a mind putting its own pieces back together. And if you are the one behind the door, know this: you do not have to stay hidden forever to stay safe. The right rooms will not ask you to burn your fortress down. They will simply wait until you are ready to open the window. She is not fixing a flaw. She never had one. The world may still hear only the silence, but now the door is no longer locked. She is simply learning, at her own pace, which rooms are finally safe enough to leave the door unlocked.